He was the quiet type. Always had been. Ethan Ross wasn't the man who filled a room with words. He was the one who sat back and listened, remembered details others forgot, and noticed the small shifts in people that even they couldn't see in themselves. That's why when his wife, Lena, started changing, he didn't say anything. He just observed. Ethan had always loved Lena's spark. She was his opposite in every way, outgoing, sharp-witted, beautiful in a way that turned heads, and confident enough to handle the attention. Their marriage had worked because they balanced each other out. She brought color to his world, and he gave her grounding in return. At least, that's what he believed. They'd been married for 6 years. It wasn't always perfect, but it was theirs. He remembered the first time they met, how she laughed louder than anyone else at the bar, how she teased him for ordering tea instead of a drink, and how she gave him her number anyway. He remembered proposing with shaky hands, her tearful yes, their honeymoon in Florence, and how she fell asleep on his shoulder during their flight home, whispering how safe she felt with him. But lately, something had shifted. It started small. Lena began working late, more meetings, more deadlines, more client dinners. Ethan understood. Her job in marketing was demanding, and she'd just landed a new campaign that could lead to a promotion. But the late nights became more frequent. Then came the unexplained weekends. A quick trip with the team, she'd say. Networking event. She always had a reason. And Ethan, being who he was, didn't question it. At first, they stopped having breakfast together. She'd leave early or say she wasn't hungry. Evenings grew quiet. Conversations faded. She'd scroll through her phone late at night, sometimes smiling at texts she wouldn't show him. Once, she turned the screen away when he passed by. He noticed all of it. Every glance, every distant reply, every sigh that wasn't explained. But he didn't ask. He just stored it away, like files in a cabinet. She was stressed, he told himself. The promotion, the pressure. She'll come around. Then she mentioned someone new. Travis, he's hilarious, she said one night over dinner. He actually reminds me a bit of you in college. Ethan's fork paused mid-air. Travis Carter. The name dropped like lead in his stomach. He hadn't heard that name in years. Travis had been a friend back in college. Charismatic, charming, and a compulsive flirt. Ethan hadn't stayed in touch after graduation, partly because he'd grown tired of watching Travis go through women like they were hobbies. What's he like now? Ethan asked, carefully. Still funny. A bit more polished. He's just good at what he does, she said, smiling. He nodded. Didn't press. That night, he barely slept. Memory after memory rushed in. Travis had always been the guy who loved attention, especially from women who already had someone. Ethan hated that part of him. Still, he said nothing. A week later, his sister Kara stopped by. She picked up on the silence immediately. You okay, E? She asked, watching him clean up dishes from a dinner that Lena had skipped. Again. He shrugged. Just work? Lena seems off, she said softly. You guys good? He didn't respond right away. Just looked down at the plate in his hands. She's just busy. But even as he said it, he didn't believe it wasn't just busy. It was different. He felt it in how she barely touched him anymore. How she didn't ask how his day went. How she didn't seem to notice that he'd stopped waiting up for her. One night, she came home past midnight. Her hair smelled different, more perfume, less shampoo. She kissed his forehead and whispered, sorry, long night. Then disappeared into the shower. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the doorway. No anger. No questions. Just silence. He didn't know what was happening yet. But he knew something was. Trust, he once read, doesn't disappear all at once. It erodes, like stone under a dripping faucet. And now, with every late night, every unanswered question, every story that didn't quite add up, he could feel his trust in Lena cracking. He had always been the quiet type, but silence doesn't mean blindness. And it certainly doesn't mean weakness. Ethan woke up earlier than usual. Lena's side of the bed was cold, already made. She hadn't slept in it. He sat there, staring at the empty pillow for a long time before reaching for his phone. No missed calls. No messages. He scrolled through their last conversation. Her text from the night before said, working late. Don't wait up. That was 10 hours ago. He stared at the timestamp, the period at the end, the lack of warmth. Something inside him hardened. He didn't consider himself the jealous type. Never had. But he wasn't naive either. Patterns formed, and Lena's were no longer subtle. She kept her phone face down. She smiled at texts she wouldn't share. She didn't laugh at his jokes anymore. The excuses became templates, always the same, always clean. He needed more than feelings. He needed truth. He spent the morning researching a discreet GPS tracker, a secure way to mirror a phone. He wasn't proud of it. But he needed to know. The next day, while Lena was in the shower, he placed the tracker beneath her car. Simple, small, untraceable. Then he installed software on his laptop. It took him hours, but when it was done, he could see every message she sent and received, every call log, every shared location point 3 days past. She left for a client dinner Friday night. Her location showed a restaurant downtown, then a boutique hotel. She never came home. The first message came through just after midnight. Travis, you look even better in that than I imagined. Lena, you like it? It's your shirt, technically. Travis, I like everything on you. Or off. Ethan stopped reading. His throat tightened. He scrolled back up. There were older messages, weeks of them. Jokes, compliments, photos. Lena had sent him a selfie, wearing Ethan's shirt, the one she used to sleep in. She wasn't in their bedroom. She was somewhere else. Somewhere with him. His hands were steady, but his chest felt hollow. He sat at his desk and stared at the screen. He wanted to scream. He didn't. He just kept reading. Every word chipped away at what he thought they had. She called Travis refreshing, alive, not boring. She said she hadn't felt this wanted in years. Said she missed how it used to feel. Ethan felt like a ghost inside his own life. The next morning, Lena returned home around 10 a.m. She looked exhausted but didn't try to hide it. She kissed him on the cheek, told him she was starving. He made her coffee, and she scrolled her phone while sipping it. Ethan watched her from across the room. He could see the lie in her posture, in her practiced calm. He didn't confront her. Not yet. That wasn't his way. He was methodical, even now. He needed everything. So he downloaded the messages, copied the photos, logged every location. He backed it all up, 2 hard drives, one in a drawer, one in the cloud. Over the next few days, she stopped pretending altogether. She barely touched him. She left early, came back late, and when she was home, her eyes were elsewhere. Ethan kept a notebook. Times, dates, words. Not for revenge. For clarity. For proof that this wasn't a bad dream. Then he saw the message that made his jaw tighten. Travis, let's get away next weekend. Just us. You deserve it. Lena, say when. I'll tell Ethan it's a retreat. That night, Ethan stared at the ceiling until sunrise. He didn't cry. He didn't yell. He just decided. No more waiting. He called a lawyer. Quietly. Asked questions. Took notes. He changed the password on their joint bank account. He started moving funds to a private one she didn't know about. He spoke with HR about transferring his job to a new city. Every move was precise, invisible. Just like him. He booked a room at the same hotel where Lena and Travis planned their escape. A day early. Different floor. Alias name. He watched them arrive from the lobby, unnoticed. Saw Lena in sunglasses, laughing. Travis had his hand on her back. Ethan followed at a distance. He watched them check in, watched the elevator close behind them. He memorized the room number. He didn't go up right away. He sat in the hotel bar, nursing water, letting the moment settle. It wasn't rage he felt. It was release. A quiet understanding that the woman he once loved no longer existed. He waited for nightfall. Waited for her to feel safe, untouchable. And then he stood, walked toward the elevator, and pressed the button. His reflection in the polished steel doors was calm, clear, and unfamiliar. He had changed, and she was about to learn exactly how much. The knock was soft but deliberate. When the door opened, Lena stood frozen, wrapped in a hotel robe. Behind her, Travis appeared shirtless, mid-laugh, until he saw Ethan. Silence. Ethan looked at her, then past her. He didn't flinch. Didn't raise his voice. He simply held out a small flash drive. She didn't take it. He dropped it on the dresser just inside the door. She tried to speak, his name, a reason, something, but nothing came out. He looked her in the eye for the first time in weeks and said, "You lied better than I thought." Then he turned and walked away. And no yelling. No chaos. Just clarity. By the time Lena returned home the next day, Ethan was gone. Closet emptied, drawers bare, keys on the counter. On the table, she found a single envelope, divorce papers, pre-signed, and a note with 5 words, "I know. This is done." She called. He didn't answer. Texted. Nothing. She tried Kara, hoping maybe she could help, but all she got was a message back that said, "You don't get to reach him anymore." Lena sat alone on the edge of their bed, now her bed, holding the flash drive. She didn't need to open it. She knew what was on it. Every message. Every lie. Every moment she thought she could hide. And now she was alone with all of it. Ethan didn't disappear, he transformed. He moved to a different city, kept his job, cut ties cleanly. He deleted her photos, unfollowed her accounts, blocked her number. In public records, she would see the word irreconcilable, the only explanation he gave the court. He started running. Not from pain, but toward something else. Peace, maybe. He saw a therapist. It was awkward at first, sitting in silence with someone paid to listen, but then the words came, slow and heavy. He talked about trust, about how it doesn't snap, it erodes. About being ignored, dismissed, lied to, then blamed for being distant. The therapist listened without pity. Ethan appreciated that. Kara visited often. They didn't talk about Lena. They talked about everything else, childhood, music, work. Laughter started to return, faint but real. Ethan learned to enjoy his own company again. Simple routines. Coffee in silence. New books. Long walks. Lena tried to fix what was left. She messaged his friends. She left voicemails. She emailed him long paragraphs, filled with memories and apologies. She didn't ask for forgiveness, she begged for it. He read one of them. Only one. The rest went unread. It said, "I made a mistake. I miss you every day. I was stupid. Please talk to me." He deleted it. Travis? He vanished within 2 weeks. Whatever charm he had faded the moment things got real. He stopped responding to her. The hotel weekend was his finish line, not the start. She realized too late that she was just a distraction to him, a game. Now she had no one. People began to notice. At work, she wasn't glowing anymore. She stumbled through meetings. Her smile was dim. Friends asked, "Where's Ethan?" She said, "It's complicated." But the truth wasn't. She burned the bridge and stood in the ashes. Months passed. Ethan started dating again. Slowly. Cautiously. Not out of revenge, but because he was ready. Not for a replacement, but for something real. He didn't look for Lena in anyone else. He looked for honesty, warmth, effort. He found conversations that didn't drain him. Laughter that wasn't forced. Eye contact that held no secrets. Once, he saw a photo of Lena online. Alone. A drink in hand, eyes distant. Captioned, "Some lessons come too late." He felt nothing. Not anger. Not grief. Just distance. He had already grieved what they had. It wasn't the cheating that broke him, it was how easy it was for her. How natural the lies became. That was the part he couldn't forgive. Not just that she hurt him, but that she never once thought he'd notice. As if quiet meant blind, but silence had always been Ethan's sharpest tool. While she whispered into someone else's ear, he had memorized every moment, every gap, every inconsistency. He saw it all before she even knew she was being watched. In the end, it wasn't a scream or a fight that ended them. It was a single decision. To walk away, because when someone loves you deeply, they'll give you everything. But when they finally stop, they'll leave you with nothing, and never look back. Ethan didn't look back. He moved forward. And in doing so, he found peace. Some betrayals are loud, violent, dramatic. His wasn't. His was quiet, surgical, final, and when the quiet type finally spoke, it was with action, not words. 6 months had passed. Not long in the grand scope of things, but enough for Ethan to rebuild without noise. People around him began to notice, his posture straighter, his voice firmer, his presence more certain. He no longer carried the weight of second-guessing himself. What once consumed him now sat quietly in the past, irrelevant. Lena had not moved on. Not really. She tried. She went on dates, joined clubs, traveled with co-workers. But nothing stuck. No one measured up. And in quiet moments, she always thought of Ethan. The way he used to look at her like she was all that mattered. The way he never raised his voice, never made her feel small. She remembered how she used to be someone better beside him, before she got bored, before she convinced herself she needed more. Travis never returned her messages. She ran into him once, accidentally, at a bar downtown. He gave her a half smile, said he was seeing someone else, then walked away without a hint of regret. That was when it hit her, she had gambled stability for attention, traded devotion for validation. And she lost both. Ethan didn't know about the encounter. He wouldn't have cared. His time was spent on things that added value to his life. He had started a side business, something he'd always wanted to do but never made time for. His social circle had shifted, made up of people who saw him, not just tolerated him. And while he hadn't fallen in love again, he wasn't afraid of it anymore. He knew now that love without respect wasn't love at all. It was convenience. And he'd lived that lesson already. Sometimes, at night, he'd still remember. Not the betrayal, but the moment he chose himself. The night he stood at that hotel room door, looking her in the eyes, saying nothing, and letting silence speak everything. It was the most powerful moment of his life. Not because he confronted her, but because he didn't break. Lena sent him one last letter. A real one. Handwritten. She didn't ask for reconciliation this time. She only said she understood now. That she knew what she'd broken couldn't be repaired. That she never realized how lucky she was until she was outside looking in. That she missed the way he never made her beg for attention because he always gave it freely. She ended it with a sentence that stuck with him for days: "You were the calm I mistook for boredom." He didn't respond. Not out of cruelty, but out of peace. She was no longer his problem to solve. No longer his responsibility. The man she betrayed wasn't the man she left behind. He had evolved beyond her reach. Ethan's silence wasn't revenge. It was dignity. A refusal to reopen a chapter that had ended. And despite everything she had done, he never smeared her name, never spoke ill of her to others, never used her betrayal as a story to earn sympathy. He didn't need to. People noticed. Truth reveals itself without help. His friends respected him more now. Not because he endured, but because he responded with grace. He wasn't a victim. He was a man who saw everything, processed it, and chose a path that preserved his integrity. He often thought about how people view infidelity. Some call it weakness, others a mistake. But to him, it was a mirror. It showed him exactly who Lena was, and exactly who he had become. It didn't destroy him, it defined him. Not by breaking, but by rebuilding. He didn't need closure from her. He gave that to himself. Not with words, not with final conversations, but by stepping into a version of his life where he didn't have to question the loyalty of the person next to him. When asked about her now, he only says, "We are not in contact," and leaves it at that. He doesn't owe the world an explanation, and certainly not her. He isn't waiting for karma. He isn't watching her fall apart. He isn't interested in her regrets. Because the true victory wasn't her loss, it was his peace. He was the quiet type, and in the end, that silence said everything she never bothered to hear.